Here's a quick Gnomeregan raid guide. A Gnomer is tuned quite a bit harder than BFD, so you might need to know some of the mechanics for most of the encounters if you want to clear it week 1. So with that being said, let's dive right in. The first boss is named Grubbis, and he spawns after a few ad waves you have to deal with. During the ad waves, you'll also notice a green gas cloud moving around the room. This is just basically chasing players, and it should chase the player nearest to it, just like the molten lava totem from BFD. Don't get hit by this gas cloud as it will hurt you. Make sure to drag the Trog ads into the gas cloud because they will explode, killing the Trogs and getting rid of the gas cloud itself. And while this gas cloud is up, the whole raid will receive a pulsing AoE nature damage, and this will be important later on. On the boss himself, have the off-tank pick up the Basilisk pet. This is basically because the pet will randomly de-aggro and randomly aggro on someone else, just taunt him back here and keep DPSing Grubbis. And gas clouds will keep spawning faster as time goes on, so it's a little bit of a DPS race. Make sure to keep dragging the ads into the gas cloud and don't let the gas cloud reach the boss or else it will enrage the boss. At 20%, the boss enrages anyways and starts hitting the tank for a ton of damage. Make sure to save some cooldowns for this because you'll also probably have multiple gas clouds doing a ton of AoE damage to the entire raid. You can also utilize AoE heals, and having a Shadow Priest could make this raid a lot easier with Vampiric Embrace, but I suggest using a Nature Protection Potion to burn the boss down. After you defeated the boss himself, you still have to beat his pet Chomper, so just know you're not done with the fight completely yet. Viscous Fallout. Make sure you tank the boss away from these little bracers you see on the ground. These are called desiccated fallouts, so just drag the boss as far away from these as you can, because the boss will spawn 3 irradiated goos. And these 3 goos will move directly towards those bindings on the ground. If they reach those bindings, they will spawn an ad that you have to deal with. So you can CC and slow these goos and burn them down whenever they spawn. The boss himself will actually spawn a poison cloud underneath him. It's a little bit hard to see, like the visual isn't super clear, but just make sure you're continuously dragging the boss away from that whenever it spawns. Crowd Pummeler is probably the first challenge for most groups and most pugs because there's a lot of self-responsibility going on here. The boss will throw out 2 cogwheels that spin around the room. If they hit you, they knock you back, and they can actually continue knocking you back to literally knock you off the platform. And if this happens, you just fall down and die. Beware, anyone that actually dies this way will have their corpse put in the front of the room, so you can battle res them or they can use soul stones, but just know if you fall off the platform, you're out. As you continue DPSing the boss, eventually he will spawn 2 more of these wheels, so you'll have 4 of them to watch out for. But the real major mechanic you need to watch out for is his frontal. This frontal is called Gnomeregan Smash, and you'll notice the boss have like a lightning animation on top of him. And if you're hit by this cast, you will be one-shot because it will knock you off of the platform and you will die. The way to dodge this is to look at the boss's feet. And we do this because it's a lot easier to notice the direction the boss is facing. It actually can be a little bit confusing with his animations if you're looking at his hands or anything like that. Just look at the boss's feet. Trust me, it'll be way easier for you. Now that you're dodging those mechanics, at 25%, the boss will start casting another ability called Claw. This is where he will randomly target one member in the raid and then charge at that member. Once he reaches you, he will do a ton of damage and pick you up in his hand, kind of like flailing you around as if you were his main weapon. This person needs to be topped off on HP and expect a ton of healing to make sure that they don't die. Or you can do things to avoid this completely. You can actually blink the charge. You can ice block the charge. I think you can feign death and vanish the charge. So just be aware, you're gonna wanna try to mitigate this as much as possible, and then the boss is down. The Electrocutioner in true form will put positive and negative charges throughout the raid. Make sure to tank him against the wall, and if you get the negative charge, just run away from the raid. You'll notice this because it's a huge circle lightning animation around the player that has it, and if it's on the tank, just make sure everyone else is outside of the range of that circle. The main mechanic is dealing with the chain lightning. This will target the furthest player away from the boss himself, and then that will chain to the 2 closest members next to that furthest player. And once you're hit by this, you will receive a debuff. That means if you get hit by this again while you have that debuff, you will get one shot. Basically, what you want to do is have 2 ranged groups just standing out of 3 people. When one of them gets hit by the chain lightning, then the other ranged group takes a step back and that ranged group takes a step forward. Realistically, to do the most damage, you would actually have one ranged group just stand still the whole time and then a healer group that moves forward and back to make sure that the other ranged group is targeted. If you don't have 6 ranged players, you can use melee to stand closer to the person that is is getting targeted by the chain lightning. Of course, again, that is on the furthest player away from the boss. And if any of the players that are supposed to soak get targeted by the negative charge, just have them move out of the group and send someone else to go soak. The Mechanical Menagerie is 4 bosses all at once, and all of these are like engineering summon trinket items like the explosive sheep or mechanical dragonling. But just know you need to down these all at the same time or near the same time, or else they will repair themselves and come back to life with extra HP. The sheep can be kited the entire time. Just have range deal damage to it because it does a pulsing AoE stun. Then you're going to want 2 tanks for the other mobs. An off tank taking the mechanical dragon mob and the main tank taking the squirrel and the battle chicken. The dragonling will randomly do a frontal cone fire blast. Make sure that the raid does not get hit by that. But I would keep the dragonling close to the other one so it can take a little bit of cleave damage. Now the squirrel will randomly do AoE damage to the raid, and the battle chicken will lay eggs. You just want to burn those eggs down right away to keep things easy. The battle chicken also will get a battle squawk up, which basically is a bloodlust on all of the ads. Just get ready to use cooldowns whenever that's up. If your healers or casters are struggling with mana at all, you'll notice these red buttons by the vents all around the room. If you click that button, you get back a ton of mana, but you're also hit for like 670 damage. So be aware you're trading HP for mana, but it definitely can keep you topped up and it can help the healers significantly. Once you down them all at the same time, make sure to loot them and then move away from the middle of the room because the last boss will spawn right here and there's like no warning and no delay. So he will womp you if you're just still standing there. This last boss is Mekgineer Thermaplugg, and it's a 4-phase encounter where the first 3 phases are going to be 1 fire, ice in the second phase, and then nature or poison in the third phase, and the last phase is like Voltron where all the Zoids come together and form a mega mech. Each of the first 3 phases will transition at 50% on the boss, so just know you don't need to burn it entirely. During each phase, there will be bombs that spawn from the vents around the room, and when these vents are open, you can just close them by clicking that button we were talking about earlier. Have mobile range classes, the best ones would be mages, be ready to blink to these vents and press the button. If you're fast enough, you can even close the vents before any bombs spawn, but usually it'll be 1 to 2. You can CC or slow these and then just burn them down. They have something like less than 300 HP, so 1 attack should take it out. In the first phase, tank the boss towards the entrance of the room and on one of these sides. When he starts casting the flamethrower, you're going to want to start kiting him to the other side. This is because if you get hit by the flame damage here, you will get a stacking debuff that does more and more damage to you. So your tank could take a ton of damage if they have too many stacks. You can also have an off-tank taunt or even a hunter pet taunt to reset the stacks. They only actually last on you for 15 seconds. Remember to deal with the fire bombs that are spawning and get ready for phase 2. Phase 2 will be the frost phase. The boss will pulse an AoE frost damage that actually stacks up and will slow everyone in the raid for each stack they have. This is dispellable because it is a magic debuff, and you can also completely ignore this mechanic if you just use free action potions. Each stack on the raid will actually increase the boss's damage to the tank whenever he hits them with his tank buster mechanic, super cooled smash. So make sure that you do not have a lot of stacks on the raid or else the tank will get one-shot. And either way, this still will hit the tank for a ton of damage, so be ready to heal. Make sure the range deal with the frost bombs and get ready for phase 3. Phase 3 is the phase that most guilds were super stuck on because the main mechanic is the boss will cast an AoE damage channel that will literally wipe the raid. All you need to do here is interrupt. But this does not have a cast bar, so just be aware of when it's happening. Make sure somebody kicks or you cast counterspell. This phase is actually probably the easiest because of that, so make sure you're dealing with the bombs and get ready for phase 4, the Voltron phase. In the final phase, the boss has all of the mechanics you dealt with earlier. That means you still need to kite the boss, you also need to dispel the magic debuff or use a free action potion, and you need to kick that AoE damage ability that's doing the poison damage to wipe your raid. In this phase, you also will have to deal with bombs of every single element. These will spawn one after another from the same vents, so if you close the vents quickly, you won't have to deal with too much. And since this is the final phase, you actually do need to bring the Mechazoid down to 0 HP, so be ready to burn it all the way down. Once you have defeated this in true true gnomish fashion, the actual boss Mekgineer will jump out of his mech and you just need to burn him down. He doesn't really do anything. He's very easy to defeat. So once you've actually downed the major boss, then just burn him. And congratulations, you have now cleared Gnomeregan in phase 2 of Season of Discovery. I hope everybody gets all the loot they're looking for because the drops seem to be just phenomenal right now. Maybe there's better drop rates than we had in phase 1, and I will see you guys all on the next one. Of course, if you like this guide or want more things Season of Discovery, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all on the next one.